Hey guys, today I'm showing you the benefits and alternative options for overclocking. As the reason for this is because overclocking, some people can see as quite a dangerous thing, as you could damage your graphics card, and seeing as it can be very expensive, that could be a lot of money down the drain if it ends up getting broken. Although this is really hard to happen, and I will make a video showing you the best way in which to overclock your graphics card, there is the question of should I even bother, and also is there another way? And it's because there is. And I've made 4 benchmarks to show you comparing when you have no overclock, an overclock with just a power limit and temperature limit increase, and a full-on the overclock that I use in games like Witcher 3. Um, just so that you can compare and see the increases in them. So the first profile that I'll have, which I used for no overclock at all, is profile 4, and that's with a power limit of 100% and a temperature limit of 70. And I use 70 just because I have quite a nice case with lots of airflow, quite a cool room, and a good cooler on it. Some people won't have that. In fact, a lot of people probably won't have that. They may live in a hot country, or they may have a really crappy stocky cooler which is just blowing air away, not doing very much, or their case may be tiny and so no airflow can actually get in there. So I'm just where it would be 83 degrees Celsius. I've made it 70, just to help just show you what thermal throttling can actually do. Because I'm sure you've heard of the term, but maybe never actually seen what it is like in action. My third profile is the second one, which is the second one with a power overclock, which is 109% power limit and 91 degrees Celsius. And then you may think this is dangerous. What if my graphics card gets this hot? What if it's using 109% power and it fries it? And okay, I'm not held responsible for anything you do to your card. There's anything you do wrong with it, because that's your own willingness. But I will show you at the end of the video why doing this doesn't actually matter that much. Especially for me, although it says max 109 there, I barely get over 102 to 105. Never really go over that. You may get a little spike, and that's it. And same with the temperature. Maxing Witcher 3 Ultra settings with the 980 Ti with 1080p 2x DSR, I'm hitting 85 degrees Celsius max. Sometimes here's 82. So I'll show you why it doesn't actually matter and why increasing it actually benefits. And my third and final one is profile 1, which is my full-on overclock of plus 87 millivolts, my power limit, core clock, memory clock, and everything. And for this, if I go to settings, I didn't use my super aggressive fan curve here. I used the normal stock one. I used one without that. So let's show you the results. Here you can see all the results. You can see the graphs, or you can have a look at the numbers. Although TimeSpy has got some very dodgy results, so I would take it with a grain of salt. But you can very clearly see here the results. From no overclock to power overclock to full overclock, the increase in frames per second that you are getting. Although ignore the little dot here. Imagine it's not there. Imagine it is meant to be 12,424, but to show you on a graph, I had to put the decimal point there. As you can see here, about a 4 FPS increase from no overclock to power, and then a 5 FPS increase to full overclock, which are pretty similar. And again, if you look at all of them, all the increases are very, very similar. Just again, ignore these and this one, because for some reason, as I overclocked it, it went down. So obviously just an error. But with everything else, you can see a very clear increase. And then the reason why this is, to be considered as to not overclock, well, with Witcher 3, although I didn't use a super intensive scene, I got 61.65 FPS on average with my ultra settings and everything, and which is above 60 frames per second. My monitor isn't going to output this really any differently to how it's going to output that. So why stress my graphics card further, or why risk it in certain cases, unless I wanted to bump other settings up, which I couldn't really in this case. So you can see why. So you're thinking then, okay, maybe I'll just overclock the power, because it has quite significant. You can see the benefits it has. Just to show you a bit more, The Witcher 3. So first one, minimum 48, max 65, that average. Minimum 51, max 70, average that. Min, and you can see they're all increasing. And these minimums are really just tiny little spikes, is why those minimums happen. But you can see all the times are pretty much, I did them all at the same time, very similar frames and everything. So you can see the frames are increasing, obviously, actually. So you can actually see the increase in the impact it actually has of just overclocking. So unless you know how to overclock, then I would suggest it. Or there's other videos on YouTube you can watch as well on how to overclock your graphic card safely. And if I were you, if you're not getting 60 frames per second and you're pushing graphics card to the limit without overclocking, I would suggest overclocking. The other thing I would also suggest doing, as I said here, is if you don't mind, getting just a very aggressive fan curve so that it doesn't go super dangerously high temperatures. Because if you are going to max out and the temperatures start getting near to 90, I would go for an aggressive fan curve, because otherwise, you don't want to cause damage to your card. But I'm going to show you. So it's great. You can see, the benefits of overclocking, and it actually is quite worth it. Although you think, okay, wow, that's 9 FPS difference. Is that really much? Well, okay, over that, over the 50, just say 57. That's 9 from the 57. That's about 11% increase, 10-11% increase. So it is definitely, what am I on about? Sorry, it's about a 15% increase. Sorry about that. Compared to the others, compare from there to there. So that's actually significant when you think about the percentage. And so this is great, and you're thinking, okay, why don't I just, the power overclock? But why is it that increasing the temperature limit and the power limit does this? Well, with these amazingly drawn graphs, I will show you. So you have a degrees Celsius, your temperature here, and time, and you have a frequency here and time. So when you start a game, your temperature will slowly start to increase. Up until this point, it's generally a straight line, because this line is very, very straight. And then it begins to curve, tend towards your temperature limit, which is this uber straight line right here, until it reaches it and it hovers around there. Now your frequency, as the game starts, will shoot up, and it will stay pretty straight. Then, around the similar point, your frequency will start to decrease. And it does it slowly, and this is so that your temperature doesn't get too high, because you told it to stop at 83 degrees. But what that's actually saying is, okay, at about, just say 75 degrees Celsius, I don't know just say 75 degrees Celsius, you're then telling it, okay, start decreasing the frequency so that it doesn't get too hot. And so it slowly does it until it reaches about here and here, where the frequency stays the same and your degrees Celsius stays the same. Frequency may as well just be FPS. You're effectively just getting a lower frame rate, and the longer you play the game, so even these tests weren't perfect, so I couldn't play them for super long, and that just shows you how much difference there is for not very long gameplay. When you start playing it for longer and it starts to get hotter, as your room gets hotter and everything, it may have to decrease further, and so your frame rate could just drop more. So, and the reason it does this is because otherwise you'd get a nice straight line, and it would hit it, and then go straight. It might drop down, hit it, drop down, maybe just try and correct, and then it may stay straight. Whoops, may stay straight, because it's just hit it and it's just hit a wall. Now, okay, doesn't seem too bad. Look, you got higher temperature. Surely your frequency then for longer, it will. Your frequency. Imagine that was the same. Go up and go across. Oh look, it's going at high frequency for longer. Sure, it's great. But when you hit the wall, dip down, going across, dip down, going across, maybe it goes down for a bit, goes up, tries to correct itself, maybe eventually tends towards that temperature as that does. And so all you're seeing is massive jarring changes in frame rate, and this is going to ruin your experience completely. So great, you're getting a couple of extra seconds here, or maybe even a minute of higher frame rates, but then you're just going to get a terrible experience for the next couple of minutes. So that's why it happens. So all you're doing is increasing the power limit, is just see I get green. Interesting. Increase the palette up here. Maybe let's go pink. Your graphics card. What would happen is it'd go up here, and it might get up here, just say, but then actually it gets up there and it stays there because maybe your frequency goes up, and then okay, it goes across, and it can just sort of stay there. It doesn't actually heat up the card anymore because there is a point where you're keeping the frequency and you're not heating it up anymore. As you can see here, it's a very straight line, and it just goes flat because now this gap here. Look at that. Look at that tiny gap there. That's like just a 2 degrees Celsius higher than what your limit was before, or maybe it could even just be your limit sometimes, and yet you're getting more constant frame rates simply because you have this nice gap here, so that you don't so it doesn't try and tell you to slow down. Of course, you can actually end up going higher because some cars have terrible cooling on them, which is when I would recommend maybe not going so high because they've got such bad cooling that it actually ends up being negatively affecting the card. It doesn't work well. So yeah, that's the reason why it happens, and that's why, very simply, adding just a increased temperature and power limit can do wonders, for your gaming experience, as opposed to going maybe a full on overclock. So that's I would highly recommend at least trying that out and seeing how your games perform better. Of course, you may not realize it in just normal viewing, but if you have an FPS counter in the top left, like Steam offers, then you can actually see yourself the increase in FPS. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, rate, subscribe, or click the subscribe button on the screen here. Thank you very much, and goodbye.